Hello friends, this is Rishayan. This is a continuation of the video that I was talking about the year 2020 when everybody was in this great fraud of this COVID crisis around the world, and how I probably had gotten COVID when I was in Mexico in the month of July of 2020. The camera, the battery ran out. This expensive piece of shit camera that I'm using that I bought many years ago, but it still works, but it doesn't give you any indication when it shuts out, none whatsoever, so you just don't know. And the battery, I guess, is about shot, so it just cut off. So anyway, so I'm going to continue where I left off. I was talking about those that had watched the first part of this video, how after suffering for several weeks with the symptoms of COVID. They never really gave me a test, so I don't know 100% that it was COVID, but I believe that it was. I was very weak. I had no desire to eat, no appetite, and it went on for 2 weeks, you know, with no appetite whatsoever. And then I started getting these shakes, and that's what I had talked about in the first video, and that sort of scared me because I never had shakes before, and I think it was because of malnutrition, because of not having any food income, or very, very little. So I went to another town, a larger city, where I hoped to get better medical treatment. You know, I finally broke down and went, and how nobody, none of the doctors, I was just paying a taxi going from consultorio, you know, doctor's office to doctor's office, clinic to clinic, and nobody would wait on me. You know, this is the great crooked doctors of rural Mexico that, you know, they didn't want to get COVID, so they didn't want to, they just closed up. But anyways, so finally I had found a very good, understanding nurse. For the first time, she told me at one of these places that didn't have service available, but she suggested to me that I go to the batallon, which is the military battalion, or the military, the cuartel militar, the military base located on one side of this town, the city. And so I went, and they did let me in. They had a special COVID unit set up at that time, and I assumed to be doctor. I really don't know if he was a doctor, but I assumed the guy to be a doctor was completely and totally covered, his body like a spacesuit. It looked exactly like a spacesuit when you go to Mars or the moon, or, you know, any places. If you've been there, you know what you have to wear. You know, I mean, just the helmet, the whole bit. I mean, I didn't see any part. I don't know, he could have been white, black, green, pink. I don't know what what race he was or whatever, because I couldn't see any part of his body. Everything, his face, everything was totally covered. You know, but anyways, he the only real test he gave me was taking my my weight. You know, he took my weight. That's it. There was no other test, nothing. And he just talked to me for, maybe about 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, asking me every kind of question about my symptoms, and, you know, how I felt, and on and on. And you know, and so I just answered all these questions that he'd tell me. You know, meanwhile I'm shaking, I'm really, really weak, you know. And he even says to me, he says, "Do you have Parkinson's?" I said, "No, I have Parkinson's. I'm just sick." You know, I'm just sick. I mean, it's I don't know. I never had this shaking before. 24 hours a day, even sleeping at night, I'm shaking. And you know, I mean, he's a doctor. He's supposed to tell me. I don't know. You know. And then he kept asking me I remember he asked me multiple times, "Do you have any respiratory problems? Any problem breathing? Any problem breathing?" Like he wanted me to say yes. I said no. No, 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 no. I have no respiratory problems, which I do have chronically for years and years, and I believe I had it even before then. Sinus problems, you know, breathing problems, but that's just something normal I've had for a long, long time. But nothing any different than normal. In fact, when I'm in tropical Mexico, I don't have sinus problems, so I had no problems breathing, none at all. You know, my symptoms were like I had mentioned previously in the other video, and that was it. So finally, after he's done asking all these questions, no tests, no other tests, he goes to the computer, sits in front of the computer, and I guess he's typing all this crap in the computer. He's letting the extraterrestrials of AI you know, do his job, come to the solution. You know, he believes whatever they tell him, just from, you know, my word. So he's there about 10 minutes, and I'm sitting there shaking, waiting. Comes back and says, okay, you're, he gave me some papers. I think I still have, I should have kept all the papers, but I'm an idiot, you know, I throw stuff out, but I think I have one copy of the papers. But he said that it was, how do they put it, sospecho de COVID. Sospecho de COVID, in other words, something like that, that it was possibly COVID, but never, it wasn't a definite diagnosis that I had COVID, but it was like COVID, you know, that I probably had COVID. And basically, that was it. I mean, and he gave me prescriptions, a couple of prescriptions. There's no drugs really that solved it, as far as I know. But he gave me these prescriptions, and but they didn't have them there. Most doctors' clinics, almost all private doctors and doctors' clinics and hospitals in Mexico have the drugs right there. But this special COVID unit with this spaceman, you know, he said he had no drugs there, that I have to go to a pharmacy to fulfill the what do you call it, receta, what do you call it in English, the prescription. And so that was that. But whatever. So I left. I mean, nothing really changed in my condition. I was still shaking. I was still weak, very weak, and I still had no appetite. The basic symptoms at that time. I didn't have a fever at that time that I can remember. But that's that. And so took another taxi, went and found a hotel. And right next to the hotel was a pharmacy. Went to the pharmacy, showed them the prescription. They didn't have those drugs. You know, those drugs, which I guess were the common drugs that any operating doctors that may have been operating at that time in the city, with everybody having COVID, had, you know, they had run out. So so that was worthless. But that's okay, I don't take medicine anyways, whatever. So not taking any drugs, even not unable to fulfill the prescription, and I was just too weak to continue on looking for a pharmacy that may have had that drug. The hell with it, you know? Nice hotel room. They had a little restaurant attached to it, and man, the food, I'm now starting to get an interest in food. Not really hungry, but I was starting to get interest in food. So I went down and bought something, enchiladas, I guess. I don't remember what it was. And it looked so good, you know? But I still had no appetite. But I forced myself to take a little bit, 2 or 3, you know, forkfuls of this enchiladas, I guess it was, or whatever. And I couldn't eat anymore. So I asked her, you know, just put it in a bag and I'll take it up to the room, which I did. Took it up to the room, just basically laying there suffering, you know, still with the shake, still feeling like crap, and still very, very, very weak. And but I forced a little bit more. I took a little bit more just by force, because I had no appetite. It looked good and everything, but I had no appetite, and forced myself a little bit more to eat. I guess I stayed in this hotel maybe 2 days, and then made the decision that, you know, I gotta leave Mexico. You know, I mean, this is, maybe I'm gonna die or whatever, but I gotta make an effort to do something. And I couldn't go on a bus. I couldn't go on public transportation. I just was not, I was too weak. I was shaking too much. I couldn't go, you know. So I took a private taxi. Now I couldn't take it in a one full swoop, because I was maybe, I'm just guessing, maybe 700 kilometers maybe from where I was at to Mexico City. I was a long ways away, crossing the mountains, and because I was down on the coast. So I just had to take a private taxi, and that's what I did. And it would take, one taxi would take me so far, then I'd get another private taxi, and that'd take me so far, and you know, and so on and so forth, until I reached Mexico City, all in private taxi. And the whole cost was less than $500. I don't remember exactly. Again, I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. I was, you know, in a bad way, so I didn't think of that. But as I basically remember, it was nowhere near what you would pay in the U.S. You know, nowhere near. And I think the whole thing was less than $500 for a private taxi all the way from the coast to Mexico City. Along the way, I think it was in Huahuapan de León, Oaxaca. You know, it's one of the stopovers where I had to change taxi. I stayed in a hotel there, and they have a Burger King there, you know, first Burger King from the coast that they come. They had a Burger King, then they had a Chinese food place, you know, good food, right? And I actually had an appetite for that food, and I actually bought a hamburger, and guess what? I ate the whole thing. I ate the hamburger and fries or whatever came with it. I went to the Chinese food place, and I actually ate lo mein, which I like, you know, pork lo mein. And right after eating, like within a day, all of a sudden my weakness immediately started disappearing. The shakes went away, and I came back to life, right? I came back to life, but I continued on my journey, and until I got to, I think it was Puebla, even before I got to Mexico City, and I was feeling all right. Now I was eating, but I still had made reservations or changed my reservations when the plane and everything. But I started thinking, like, maybe I should just return, you know, because and this was just no medicine. I just let it run its course. It was between 2 to 3 weeks, but it went away, you know, or most of it went away. My strength was coming back. It was not eating. I figured that out. Well, it all come from not eating. So, you know, moral of the story, when you're sick, whatever it is with the flu, eat, you know, eat, force yourself, you know, whatever. Even though you have no interest in eating, force yourself to eat, even if you vomited, even if you run to the bathroom, but eat, you know. Well, by the time I was in Mexico City, I was okay, but whatever. I'd already got the ticket, flew back to the US, and that was all right. I was all right. The only thing that lingered was I had a little cough in the afternoon, only in the afternoon. I had a little cough, which is not usual because I've lived most of my life without coughs. I mean, even when I got the flu or a common cold, it was always nasal, but very rarely that I had coughs all my life. But this sort of had a lingering, and I think maybe it was connected. But the immunity that I had got from going through it and allowing my system to build up immunity lasted me strongly for 1 year. I was not sick at all for 1 whole year until September of 2021. I got sick one day. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I doubt it was COVID. I don't know, but it was like a flu, weakness sort of thing. But it lasted exactly 1 full day. The next day, I was fine. And incidentally, I want to mention that the COVID restrictions were still in place in Mexico in September of 2021 when this occurred. And the day that I felt like shit, I had to go. It was my day to go to Soriana, which is a supermarket. I had a project. I had brought some teenagers from the area, the coastal area of Mexico where I lived, to the city of Puebla in a project that I had to help them get work, which I did, you know, but they could work and start learning the civilized world and get a job and whatever. And I was taking care of them. You know, I had several boys there that I was taking care of. And so I had to go. This is my day. I cooked for them and everything, and this is my day to go get food, even though I felt like, you know, got sick. But whatever, I forced myself with a helper to go. And at the supermarket in Mexico, even by 2021, you had to stick your finger in this stupid little thing that gave your temperature. Of course, if you had a high temperature, they wouldn't let you in. And of course, you still had to wear a mask and what else? I guess that was about it. But you had to do, and even in the U.S. that didn't occur. I mean, when I was in the U.S. during 2020 to 2022 in that period, I don't remember any place in the U.S., Walmart or whatever, where you had to take your temperature. It may have occurred, but not any of the places that I went to. But in Mexico, to go into a supermarket, you had to give your temperature. And I was thinking, you know, I was telling my helper, I said, you know, they're not going to let me in. I said, they're not going to let me in, but that's all right. I'm going and I'll give you a list of stuff, then, you know, you're going to have to buy it and I'll just wait out front. Well, went in there and I felt like shit. I'm sure I must have had a fever. And went in, stuck my finger in and just waited for the girl to tell me I couldn't go in. She just looked the other way, didn't say nothing, I have a bucket. You know, I went in. So I don't know what it read. It was in centigrade and I can't, you know, I couldn't easily translate centigrade to Fahrenheit, you know, so I don't know whatever it read, but it must have been acceptable. She didn't care, you know, and so I went in and I knew I was sick. Whether it was COVID, like I said, I don't know, but whatever. And I remember I was so sick in the store, I mean, so weak, so I just felt like crap that I just had to lay down. I think it was because of the fever that I just really wanted to lay down on the floor in the aisle, you know, I mean, I was feeling that bad, and I was telling my helper, I hope I don't just pass out because I'm really feeling bad. So we sort of quickly forced to get all the stuff I had on my list that I had to get, and finished, paid for it, went out and took a taxi and went home. I spent the rest of the, I couldn't even cook that day. You know, I said, well, you're gonna have to wait until tomorrow or cook yourself, you know, or I had some lunch meat there you could eat. And I just laid down, you know, I laid down. The next morning, I woke up and it was gone. It was all gone. And I went another whole year with no common cold, no sickness. I mean, natural immunity is a great thing. No sickness, nothing. And being close contact with people, you know, in Mexico, everybody's, you know, packed together in close contact. And there still was COVID around. There's still COVID around today, you know. But it gave me a very, very strong immunity. And, well, that's that. So that's the story to terminate the first part of my experience in Mexico, which is where I had gotten COVID, and the results afterwards. Have a nice day, people. I am Rishayan.